from the Science of Mind magazine, The Daily Guides. Yep, this one really is from there. It's the end of the work week for most people. If this is coming up to your weekend, fantastic. Just take some time to relax this weekend. There's the old saying, all work and no play makes someone a dull person. I made it gender non-specific. Today's, my mouse will behave here. Today's reading is entitled, Let Your Life Be Your Amen. The first quote is from someone I'm sure everyone has heard of, Oscar Wilde. He says, mere color, unspoiled by meaning and unallied with definite form, can speak to the soul in 1,000 different ways. Oscar Wilde. And Ernest Holmes says, prayer is both an art and a science. Scientifically, it has form. Artistically, it has color, feeling, conviction. And that was from Pray and Prosper, page 35, paragraph 2. And this is Reverend Raymont, who says, anyone who knows me knows I'm quick to craft an acronym for one thing or another. He does acronyms, I do puns. This could be due to the fact that I learned various mnemonic devices to memorize various things, such as ROGBIV, Roy G. Biv, to help memorize the colors of the rainbow and the color spectrum, as well as every good boy does fine and all cows eat grass, to help remember the notes on the lines of a treble and a bass clef in music. Roy G. Biv I'm familiar with, which was red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Yep, that's how I remember the spectrum. Then he asked, do you have such phrases, acronyms, or letters seared into your mind? Did you learn the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment using a similar method? RURTR. Well, actually, I didn't, but I know the steps: recognition, unification, realization, thankfulness, and gratitude. Well, release, sorry. Thankfulness and release. And he says, I often say prayer is not something to be done, but rather a way in which we live our lives, and that is our Amen, or Amen if you prefer. He goes on to say, living in color is living in a bold, vibrant, ecstatic, and powerful manner. Both a full-bodied yes, when yes is right, and, guess what, a full-bodied no, when no is right. And these are the ways in which we live our Amen. Full-bodied yes, full-bodied no, as appropriate. It is living in such a way that we recognize the beauty of the universe, that it is as it shows up all around us and as us. It is living with the freedom to express ourselves without conforming to the oppressive standards that bombard us. Rather than speaking truth to power, which is actually pseudo-power, living in color means speaking and living truth powerfully in what we say and what we do. You know, I read this, obviously, well, not obviously, but I read this previously. And what this says to me is to live your life in full, to just be there and do whatever you believe is right in the given situation. And you know, one of the hardest things is not saying yes. Sometimes saying yes is easy. Sometimes it's really too easy. So sometimes one of the hardest things is actually saying no. And the late Reverend Marshall Lehman, as I've mentioned on more than one occasion, was the one who drummed into us, no is a complete sentence. It's really hard sometimes to say no, because we don't want to, most of us anyway, don't want to offend people. Some people don't care, but the majority of us really don't want to offend people. And sometimes it's hard to say no, but sometimes you just have to say no for your own good. And it's been a hard lesson for me to learn. And as I said, Reverend Marshall was one of the ones who actually helped me start to really enforce saying no. I would love to do that. However, I'm not able to do it right now. Or you can even be honest and say, look, I have so much on my plate right now that if I take something else on, I won't be able to give each of them the true attention that they deserve. So that's what I got out of this, is really truly is to say yes when it's appropriate, say no when it's appropriate. Let me just have another look at this thing. I'm not really an acronym person. As I said, I'm more somebody who's going to twist words around, and make puns out of them. And sometimes I don't know how it goes down, but anyway, I love puns. When I was at school, from 11 years onwards until I left school, I went to a place called St. Mary's College. It was a Catholic college. Well, it was a Catholic school for gifted kids, theoretically. Some kids got in there because they were paid for, some got in because they partially got in, and then the governors of the school helped them out. So it was a mixed bag. But bottom line was, if you couldn't pun, you wouldn't survive. So the first thing you learned when you went there at 11 years of age was how to pun. And of course, when you do that for 6, 7, 8 years, then it just never leaves you. So anyway, that's my contribution for today. My colleague, Reverend Lisa, will be on Creative Eye Spiritual Center's Facebook page tomorrow at about 9:15 with another offering. And I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully around about 5 o'clock, with my offering, or actually Reverend Raymont Anderson's offering, which I will read and attempt to interpret somewhat. So anyway, speak your power. Say yes when it's appropriate, say no when it's appropriate. And final message, which I always give, is take care of yourself. So I am knowing in the oneness of the all that each and every person who watches this and listens to this feels empowered enough to say yes when it's appropriate and to say no when it's appropriate. And I release this word into a divine law that always operates and always says yes. And I am so grateful, and I let it go and say, and so it is.